for stuff to arrive, I can go ahead and figure out how I'm going to run the power up into the model itself, through the stand. The plan is simple enough. I'm going to run a positive and a negative cable up through the stand into the model from the base. I've got this great equipment wire. It's a nice fibrous strand rather than a solid core. And as you can see, this stand is quite a thick piece, which means it'll be very simple for me to drill in a couple of holes on either side, run the cable up along the back and out the top. And similarly, matching holes can be added to the slots here and on the lower section of the engineering base. For the main power input, as the forward is the bottom of the Starfleet badge, I'll simply add a small hole here where the main power junction can slot through, be divided into the two equipment cables, go through two holes, up through here, into the base, where it will then tie into the system. The wire is approximately 1 millimeter thick, just under, so I've got a 0.8 and a 1.2 bit for my Dremel. So I'll start with the 0.8, see if that feeds through nicely, and then switch up to the 1.2 if it doesn't fit. My first task is to mark out the holes, because otherwise when this entire thing is assembled, the wire won't be able to feed through and that's pretty pointless. So when this is slotted in, it doesn't actually sit in alignment, it actually sits slightly back because of the hook. So I just need to bear that in mind. The way I'm going to do this is assuming that this part of the stand, ignoring the hook, aligns up perfectly with the front of the base where it goes in, I can just use that to find a nice center point. It's about a centimeter long, so a nice center point is going to be about 5 mil back from the front. So I'm just going to mark out 5 mil in both cases, give myself an adjoining line, do the same for my stand here. Now that we've figured out the vertical positioning, coming horizontally out of it, I want the wires to be as close to the side as possible. So I've come 2 millimeters from the center line on either side, aligned that with my cross markings, and I'm just going to take my red pro marker and just highlight those spots so that it's nice and easy to see. I'll take the Dremel straight through, mark out the positions on here as well, and that should give us our base connection. I'm going to go ahead and do the base first, then adjust the Dremel up so I can get the stand in. Naturally, because of the slope of the stand, it's going to take a reasonable bit of hand discipline to make sure it stays nice and straight. As you can see here, the holes are fairly close to the pin, and on the inside that's come through. It could have been a little bit closer, but I think that's well within the margins of safety. In fact, now that I know I'm happy with it, I'm just going to go ahead and clear out the holes with the drill bit. And now, with the two pieces slotted together, you should just be able to make out a little pinhole of light there on each side. Oh, I've re-drilled them. You can see the cable comes through. It's nice and easy. It's not pinching, and will just come through out a similar holes in the top. I believe the instructions call for you to paint it in silver and gold like the badge would be, In my case, I don't want the stand to stand out, so I'm just going to cover this in black and semi-gloss it, which at the same time will make the cable practically invisible unless you're looking very close. So let's go ahead and do the top. As you can see here, we have a similar situation that we did on the base, where there's a hook that slides into the component. So that base is actually set forward a little bit. So what I'm going to use for the alignment here is I'm going to mark off the rear of the peg onto the sides of the saucer, the engineering hull, and use that for my vertical alignment, and the horizontal will be the same 2mm out from either side. And there you should just be able to make out the hole there in alignment with the light coming through, and that has correctly aligned for both halves of the saucer. When it comes to final assembly, the cables will be hardwired into the engineering hull, which I'll then feed into the top stand, which will then feed into the base and be connected. So there's no way you'd be able to get the power cables up into Voyager once it's been assembled. But as you can see, that all feeds through very nicely, and once it's assembled, that will give us power directly into the stand and into Voyager. Bringing the power cable into the base is a simple affair. I'm just going to cut out a very small hole with my scalpel where the cable can feed through. To do that, I'm just going to establish the size of my wire, which in this case is 4mm by 2mm. I'm just going to mark out a 4mm by 2mm box. Now that I've got it close enough, I can take a flat file. Hope this isn't too big. Yeah, it's slightly too big. So in that case, I shall take my square file, wherever that's gone. Let's triangle it. There it is. Take my square file and finish it off with that. Very nice square hole, which now hopefully, when I feed the cable into it, allows the stand to fit flush on the floor and doesn't trap the cable. As the only thing left to be done to the stand is just for it to be painted, and I'd rather do that all in one piece rather than painting it in two separate pieces and then sticking it together. And I'm going to be very liberal with the glue here, because this is kind of an important bond that needs to be made. I'm going to pre-treat both sides. And then this just, make sure I get it the right way around, slots in like that, nestles into place. And I will just run a small seam bond around the whole thing on the underside. Perfect. I should be getting the final few pieces I need in the next few days. I know the paints that I've ordered will arrive tomorrow, and hopefully the breadboarding stuff will arrive on Wednesday. But for now, I'm Raven, and that's all from the desk.